Zoom, but we'll just maybe wait 1 minute. But while we're waiting, just a few reminders for everybody. This is the technology and innovation session, so if you think you're in something else, maybe just double check. But we're welcoming everybody into this session because no doubt we'll all learn something from the great speakers. We're using Zoom, so make sure you sort of understand the capabilities of Zoom. You won't be able to use your microphone or your camera today, but if you want to submit questions, definitely throw it in through the Q&A section. Apparently that you don't need to mute, but just in case. All right, just make sure you're not downloading any massive movies or anything like that, because that'll certainly affect your performance. Like myself, having a few challenges today, hence why I'm sitting in a shed outside enjoying the wonderful weather. We've got quite a few speakers to get through today, and there'll be a 20-minute break for everyone at 2:45. So we'll just give everyone just a quick minute to get in, and then we'll go from there. Okay, well, we're going to get underway. Welcome to the Technology and Innovation stream. My name's Tony Wolf from Golden Valley Water. I'm the exec for digital innovation up here, and really pleased to be part of this Vic Water event. I've had a great time engaging with Vic Water over the last 12 months, talking about all different possibilities in the innovation space, and they've been a great facilitator for conversations, and I've really lent on Pete and the team in steering some direction here. And today there's a few other people from the industry around who've had conversations and engagement with our industry via Vic Water, who are going to share their experiences. But before we get into it, I wanted to sort of share a bit of an experience. You know, today's Are You OK Day. So, you know, why don't we kick off with a bit of a chat about that? You know, COVID has happened this year, and yeah, it sucks for a lot of us in Victoria, especially, but across the world. You know, COVID forced us to work from home. And, you know, that's been a challenge for most people. But, you know, I'm working from home now. I'm next to my favourite toy. I'm sitting outside wearing my PPE, really comfortable and casual. When this call's over, I'm probably going to walk 70 metres behind me here and go wrestle my two kids, have a bit of fun with them before tea. And yeah, COVID really sucks. For me, though, it's enabled me to have a different life and put a different perspective. And in the guise of Are You OK? Mentally feeling much better that I'm connected and more connected to my family. Other challenges still out there, don't discount that. But for me, COVID could have been a problem or a challenge, but for me, it also became an opportunity. And the theme for today is I really want you to start to think about, in this technology and innovation space, where are we having problems in our industry? Where are we having challenges in our organizations? And are they really opportunities? You know, with a real innovative mindset, we can start to see the opportunities in our challenges. And for me, the opportunity was being more connected to my family and hanging out with an aeroplane every day for work. Sometimes a little bit more entertaining. I get more out of the aeroplane and do some of my teammates at work. But think about the opportunity, and with that, we're going to hand over to our first speaker. So we've got Daniel Sullivan here from Iota at Southeast Water. He's going to share some of the wisdom Iota have been trying to drive through the industry from their association with Southeast Water, but also their ability to partner with other utilities through the industry. So welcome, Daniel, over to you.
Yeah, hi Tony, thanks very much for the intro, and you certainly do look like you're taking as much advantage as you can of the current situations, and I really like your outlook on that, and I do also echo your sentiment around Are You OK? It's a particularly challenging time for people, and I think for those that are working and engaged in the industry, we're very fortunate, A, to be in this industry, but B, to be employed at this time when there's others that may not be in that fortunate position. So look, just a quick intro. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Iota Services. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of Southeast Water. I've been with Southeast Water now for a bit over 3 years, and a proud member of that organisation, but I also sit on the executive team. I'm also on the board of the AWA, where I do my best to advocate for Victoria and industry. We're really proud and excited to be the inaugural sponsor of this technology stream within Vic Water. I think it's a really great initiative of Vic Water to feature technology and innovation. And, we're looking forward to a long and fruitful partnership with Vic Water. I really wanted to commend Vic Water for their resilience in, making this event virtual, their ability to adapt during these times. And, it's really important for us to continue to share information and to continue to develop as a sector, and they play a vital role in that. Look, I've personally really been wanting to introduce Iota to the Vic Water community for some time, and the opportunity to sponsor this technology stream seemed really ideal, and so we're really proud to do that. I never imagined I'd be doing it from home wearing UGG boots, so that's a bit of a bonus in some ways, but I would hope at some point that we would be able to catch up over a coffee or at the cake stall there. So in the next few minutes, I'm just going to take you all through what Iota is doing and how we're adding value within the water innovation space, because we're quite a unique entity, but also talk a little bit about collaboration within the Victorian water sector before I hand over to the next speaker. But for those that don't know, Iota was established about 6 years ago. It was really created to share technology and expertise from Southeast Water with the water industry. We take prototypes and concepts that were invented within Southeast Water, but we also are open to innovation from other water utilities, and we're currently looking at intellectual property from universities as well. So one of the advantages of being in water utilities is that we can deploy it in a relatively risk-free fashion in sand pits and then prove them up. But what Iota also does is just polish up those innovations to make them utility grade, so that they can be confidently and reliably deployed into the industry. We really enjoy what we do as a team, but what motivates us the most is really contributing to the strengthening of water utilities. We really sincerely believe that water utilities are vital and play a really positive role in the communities that they serve, and we really want to help them deepen their relationship within their communities. We pride ourselves on being a genuine partner. A lot of people would say that, but we really believe that we do it, and a part of that is because we are part of a utility. So we understand your challenges. We appreciate what's involved in championing and adopting a new way of working or a new piece of innovation, and sometimes how challenging that can be to get that adopted within a water utility. Strategically, Southeast Water sees us as a way that we can deliver impact that they're looking to achieve beyond their regulated boundaries. And that can be tricky to do within a regulated utility. So hence the value of setting up a separate entity in order to do that. But we also do that whilst helping customer affordability for Southeast Water. So there's a real principle there that the customers should not pay for any of this, and that's certainly the case. In addition to projects in Australia, we also operate in Europe, Asia, Pacific Islands and New Zealand. But closer to home in Victoria is where we also really are passionate about adding value. And we support many Victorian water corps and councils. And just by way of example, City West Water, we've deployed digital meters into their network and our IoT platform. With Yarra Valley Water, we've helped design a smart pressure sewer system and supplied some of our smart pressure sewer equipment. Barwon Water, we've deployed our smart sewer sensors, which helps them avoid spills. And Melbourne City Council use some of our technology to detect illegal dumping within the stormwater system. We really believe that that innovation and expertise resides in Victorian water utilities. They're world recognised for their strength and governance, but we also believe that there's a lot of value there that's waiting to be unlocked and harnessed. And we are very open to working with any utility that thinks they might have a really interesting idea or piece of IP and want to talk to us about how they might unlock that value and potentially take it to the world. So that's always an open invitation. later on in this technology stream, Andrew Forster-Knight, acting GM of Customer Service Delivery at Southeast Water and operational technology guru, is going to share a bit about our digital metering journey, which I think is quite special, even on a global scale. And really, we're dive a bit deeply into the idea around putting vibration sensors into our digital meters so that we can cost effectively identify leaks in our network. Just take it from problem through to solution. And then later on in the stream, Aravind is also talking about a technology to turn biosolids into biochar. This is a joint project within industry and academia, and it's looking to solve a really increasing problem around what to do with our growing biosolids reserves. And you know, from a water industry perspective, our strategic challenge is really around how do we maintain affordability while managing the impacts of climate change and other things like rising community expectations. And those problems aren't going away; they're only going to get more acute. So I'm a firm believer that we need to collaborate strategically within the sector to solve these big, hairy problems. In Victoria, we're really fortunate to be in a position where we don't compete for our customers. So there is an opportunity to truly collaborate on these problems. But, you know, I do really feel there's more that we can do in that space to drive genuine and deep collaboration and leverage each other's strengths a bit more. It is made a bit difficult by the prevailing competition by comparison paradigm in which we operate. But, you know, notwithstanding that, I think we really need to work harder as an industry to do that. And I'd like to give a shout out to the IWN of Vic Water, which I think is a phenomenal forum, working really hard to improve collaboration across the sector. The Zoo initiative in particular shows what we can do when we combine our buying power to solve a problem. So finally, I'd just really like to thank Vic Water for the opportunity to present. You know, should be interested in what we're doing or have any curiosity about how we're able to even operate in the unregulated space as we do. I'm really very open and keen to talk to anybody about that. Also really encourage you to join myself and Andrew later in the day to hear more about how we're tackling leakage within our network and really taking the opportunity to use our digital meters that we're deploying to create a really intelligent edge network out of those meters. We really believe it'll be a game changer for the industry. So again, thank you very much, and I'll hand you over to Tony.
Thanks, Daniel. Really appreciate those insights. I do have one question before we move on. Where do you see, or what sort of technology or innovation do you see being the biggest game changer in the next 10 years in the water industry?
Look, I think the cloud will have a huge impact on the water industry. I think we're really just scratching at the surface about how we can use the cloud to deploy analytics, connect our devices, connect our corporate systems, and to really do rapid analysis on unstructured data and time series data to create insights. And I really think that once you've got that data lake with all of that data in there, and it can be as structured or chaotic as you like. I love the idea of data scientists getting with hardcore operators, getting with customer people, and getting together and saying, let's build an analytical model that helps us solve this problem. And let's just grab that data and just see what can happen. I think there's going to be a lot of unknowns out there that will drive a lot of value for us and really help us move to a predictive stance away from being reactive, because as water utilities, we've become really good at reacting to events, but we really need to spend more time getting ahead of those types of issues.
Thank you, Daniel. There is another question from Nick in the feed, but I'll send it to you offline, and maybe you can touch base with him offline. We need to move on to our next speaker. So Nick Fleming, I'll get you the answer to your question in a moment. Thank you. It's time to move on to our next speaker. Simon, Alicia from Amazon Web Services is going to talk to us again, leaning on from that comment that Daniel just made there about how we can leverage cloud and analytics to drive innovation in our industry. Thank you, Simon, for joining us. And I've got a question for you to kick off. How many employees does Amazon actually have?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. We have enough.
Rumor has it that you've recently ticked over a 7-figure number globally.
Yeah, we're over 1 million employees, and we're excited that we're able to hire at a time where a lot of people need employment. So it's difficult times for people, but also opportunities for people to do new things and get new experiences. So yeah, we do operate at scale, which I think brings its own challenges and opportunities as well.
Thanks, Simon. And the reason I brought that up is some of us here are in regional water utilities, and we don't have thousands of people that work for us. So we're pretty excited to work with Amazon when you have hundreds of thousands of people and leveraging that capability to bring smarts to us. So I look forward to hear what you've got to say today. Thanks, Simon.
Definitely. Thanks, Tony. And thanks, everyone. So I'm Simon Alicia. I head up technology and transformation here at AWS for our public sector business here in ANZ. And I wanted to share some insights with you about the cloud and analytics and innovation. And lots of color and movement in this presentation. So I'm testing Zoom's capabilities, I can tell you that much. But to start with, I wanted to really talk about innovation. And this is the way we see innovation at Amazon, which is really we put the customer first. We invent on their behalf, and then we're patient. Now, the last part is the hard part, because we all do things that we want to be wildly successful. Often we have very short-term views in terms of what success looks like, or we're driven by a business case to return cash very, very quickly. But some experiments take time, and innovation is often not right the first time. So thinking about how you think about things is just as important as what you do. And so today I'm going to show you a raft of different innovations that are at different levels of development that you can take advantage of today, and give you some ideas about how you might choose to innovate as well. Now, it's interesting when we look at digital water utilities. So water utilities globally really face very common problems. Population growth is putting immense pressure on the network itself. Urbanization is not helping matters, and I'm very jealous of Tony's working situation there next to an aeroplane. I can't compete with my quite sad-looking tree over there. But climate change is also causing us to really focus on the shortage of supply of secure, clean drinking water and how we manage our water. And as a Melbourne native, I have to say I've never been more thankful for the ability to walk up to a tap and have a clean drink of water, particularly after I lived in Adelaide for a few years where that's not possible. The water there is particularly hard. And the other challenge we have is aged and overly stretched infrastructure, and not so much that we can't just change all the infrastructure. You know, maybe we could, but some of it's placed in really awkward places to be able to do that effectively. So we need to think of other ways to do things. Now, they're all sort of supply side issues, but what's really changed of late is the customer expectation. And I think the point was made by the previous speaker as well, that customers don't have to choose per se their water provider. They get their water provider. That's what they get. However, what we've recognised is there's a very tight relationship between citizens as water consumers and the water producer or provider, such that we can reduce our use, we can understand how we use our water, what we can do to make a difference as well. And so improving that engagement is also just as important. So as was mentioned earlier, having data is table stakes. And the nice news is everyone's got lots and lots of data about their networks, their pipes, their customers. The challenge is actually getting any value out of it. And there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, the amount of data is growing dramatically, and it proves to be expensive, complicated, and challenging to store in a reliable and accessible way. There are lots of new sources of data. No one, when they were building a data warehouse 10 years ago, was thinking, wouldn't mind having some Twitter customer sentiment coming into my data warehouse. It's increasingly diverse. So particularly in a lot of industries like your own, it's not tables and rows, it's geospatial information and mapping information and other kinds of data sets. It can be used by many different people who have many different personas, and it's being accessed by many different applications that have competing and different ways they need to access that data. And so that's why there's been this big move over the last few years from those traditional data silos and warehousing approaches to a more collaborative and integrated approach using what's called a data lake. And the thing about the data lake is not the interesting part. It's what you can do with the data in the data lake that's the interesting part. By unlocking the ability to do far more advanced business intelligence and analytics, to do machine learning and apply artificial intelligence, and to increase the capability of that data is actually what's interesting to organizations. And what we see is this extends or evolves what is already in place, but it opens it up to new data formats in a scale that will not be run out of. So we're talking exabyte scale. So if you want to know what an exabyte is, if you think about a gigabyte, a terabyte, a petabyte, an exabyte. So it's many levels up. And it's not just about securing this data for the long term, but doing it in a secure, compliant, and auditable way. So if we have this set of data that we can actually access, what's it being used for? And this is where machine learning is coming into place. And machine learning is important not because it's interesting, cool, or a funky kind of technology, purely because we're starting to deal with the vast amounts of data that human beings cannot possibly process. And the trends we're seeing is a dramatic amount of investment into this field, moving from piloting into operationalizing how things are used. And that the AI componentry that can be built into different organizations is transforming how they are operating and how they serve their customers. And it's across a number of different domains. Firstly, the customer experience, hyper-personalizing that experience that a customer gets dealing with an organization. Improving and optimizing business operations, looking for better ways to do things. Providing the right information to specialists so they can make decisions quickly and easily. And finally, powering innovation and discovering what is not already known. Let me give you a few quick examples on that. So if we think about Intuit, large tax accounting company in the US, they focused on using artificial intelligence and machine learning in the way their call centers operate. And I'll talk a bit more about this one later, but what they wanted to do was to make sure that customers got the right answer as quickly as possible. Seems pretty straightforward. Anyone who's worked in customer service knows that is fiendishly difficult. Speaking of fiendishly difficult, Convoy is a trucking and logistics organization who spent a huge amount of time using machine learning to optimize routes, because every optimized route saves vast amounts of money in terms of fuel costs and also in terms of wear and tear on equipment. Cerner, a major health provider in the US, is using machine learning to provide at-care information to medical practitioners such that they can have the right information at their fingertips when they're talking to their patients, not having to fold through the clipboard of information. And finally, the NFL have been using it to track the performance of their athletes and to highlight the athleticism they're able to provide. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of data has always focused on that business-centric data, call center data or billing data, etc. But as was mentioned earlier by Daniel, it's the edge and the Internet of Things that's becoming very, very interesting in combination with machine learning. It's actually the combination of the data sources and sensors and the ability to action it at the end that's really interesting. Now I'm going to play a video about a toy, and you may wonder, why are you showing me this toy? And I'm showing it to you because it encapsulates some of the interesting capabilities that are available at this low price point. You can imagine what we can do at an industrial scale, which I'll show you shortly as well. But let's just hope that this video works as it's designed to. So that was a bit of fun, but you can see the combination of the Internet of Things and sensor information and robotics becomes really, really interesting. We'll dive a bit more into that shortly with some industrial applications. And the reason why these industrial applications are relevant is because organizations need to understand what's going on in their environment to create situational awareness. They need to converge the IT and industrial automation components together. And often they've been very, very separate, and they're not adding as much information to one another to actually make things work better. And again, you'll see what that looks like shortly. And finally, from a consumer perspective, that hyper-personalization is what consumers want. So one of the reasons for smart meters, it's one of the reasons for a lot of other technologies that have been introduced. Everyone has an expectation now of what they can do with their cell phone, how they can interact with their provider, the information they shouldn't have to give to a provider to be able to get service. It's really changed the game. But let's talk about that situational awareness and a concept called digital twins. And a digital twin is really a digital manifestation of something that exists in the physical realm. Let me walk you through that. So if we think about a component that we need to build, we can design it in the physical world, and it'll have measures like cost and stress simulations and geometries and designs that we can capture from a digital format. Once something is built, we can actually keep track of the quality of how it was built, the production data, what its origin was, etc. Once we ship it, we can make sure we know where that item is, and we can spin it up and start using it. And then the real fun happens during its performance. When it's operating, are there issues? Is it stable? What are the costs? What's the maintenance, etc.? What does the life cycle look like? And finally, the decommissioning experience as well. What do we do when we take it out of service? And this allows us to create this closed loop of engineering that means we can manage all these components that exist in the physical world from a digital standpoint. And this unlocks a lot of different things. Firstly, what it means is we have new ways to collect data in the first place. But far more importantly, we can now visualize and action it at scale, remotely, or in the hands of specialists. We have lots of different choices. And the way we do this is by translating data into actions. And we do this using robotics. So now we're getting right into the good technical fun stuff. So what defines a robot? So a robot is an autonomous machine that can sense its environment, that can compute decisions, and then can perform actions in the real world. So it has the ability to interpret input and create outputs. And there are three distinct types of robots that are most common today. Drones, robotic arms, which is probably the robot we're most familiar with, and ground mobility robots. And I want to touch on the ground mobility piece because I think it's a really interesting opportunity, and I've got a great story to share with you about an Australian customer that's used these as well. But first I want to talk to you a bit about the Amazon experience. You know, we've obviously been interested in mobile robotics for a long time because we understand that it's going to become the standard for logistics and fulfillment processes. And 70% of all mobile material handling will be autonomous. So it's not just about machines, it's about smart machines that can do things in and of themselves. And there's a really simple reason for this. It's the inexorable pull of economics. The price of labor goes up, the price of robots go down. And you may say, well, that depends on which nation you're talking about. Interestingly enough, back in 2017, we actually crossed that threshold of where the price of a small robot was lower than the cost of a Chinese assembly line worker, which is always the sort of benchmark of how cheap can you make something. So when organizations are thinking about deploying commercial service robots, really what they're thinking about is productivity and efficiency, to improve their product itself and the service quality they're providing, and to increase their operational capacity. So being able to do more within what they've got. Now, from an Amazon warehouse perspective, we use autonomous robots. They're called Kiva Robots. And what we did is we discovered that there were certain tasks that robots are really good at and certain tasks they're not so good at. So what they're good at is fetching and carrying. They can track around the warehouse and go and grab things to bring to a human being, which can increase our productivity and it maximizes throughput. Because there are no variables when it comes to the speed a robot moves, etc. You can map out the paths and have it fully occupied. But the way we integrate with human beings is this way, is that the robot goes and picks the pod up, you'll see that's the top left-hand corner picture, and brings it around to a bay, and you'll see there's Tim, the pick worker standing there, and the bays are brought to him. And he stands there and picks the appropriate components and puts them in the box, because that's harder to do. A lot of pattern matching, etc. So having a human being do that works really well. Now, a few things you might notice about this. Firstly, if you look at the pod that contains the totes there and the components in there, you'll see that they have all different things in them. They're not the sort of stacked neatly. In a traditional warehouse, you'd say, well, all the books A to Z go over here, and all the toys of this category go over here. That's not necessary for robots, because we have a massive computer model where the robot knows where everything is. So we actually store things based upon size and availability of space, and the robot can optimize getting all that information and getting that equipment or that product and bringing it to the packer. So we learned a few things. So firstly, we learned that we want task level execution that helps automate things that complement the workers that are doing the work. So it's not a replacement, it's an augmentation. And you'll see another example of that shortly. Secondly, we want to make sure that the human workers are doing the things that require value and judgment, dexterity, the ability to deal with ambiguity. Humans are fantastic at that. Machines, not so much. Again, we realized the value of data. We understood that once we started mapping out how things were working in our fulfillment centers, suddenly we could optimize them dramatically because we knew what was going on and we knew the effective changes that we made. We also understood that we had to find a place to win and grow from there. We didn't wake up one morning and say, guess what? Every factory or every fulfillment center is going to have robots in it. It was a step-by-step experiment as we evolved and evolved. And there are multiple generations of this technology now. We also recognize that robots don't easily adapt to changes in process or environment. We need to make sure we give them very finite things to do. We also had to really leverage our partner networks to make sure that we had the right people to do the right jobs to maximize the availability of these technologies. So you may say, well, a warehouse is all well and good, Simon, but it's not a particularly harsh or challenging climate. And I would agree with you. So I would present to you Woodside, the Woodside Pluto liquid natural gas facility in Western Australia. Quite a harsh environment, doing harsh work. And they've done some really interesting things. They've done some trials around surveillance robotics, which they're now deploying. They've created task autonomy with manipulation. They're using IoT sensors across the entire deployment, and they created a 100% digital twin of the workspace. And so I've got some videos to show you that I'll walk you through some of the capabilities they've introduced. So this is some footage of their robotic site trial, which I think is really interesting. So this is their industrial strength robot that can cruise along in the environment. And it's tracking using radar and LiDAR. It has a navigation camera, which is normal vision, a thermal camera, and also an inspection camera. So thermal scanning is really interesting because it can see things that aren't apparent to the human being. You may need to bring a sensor, etc. You can see immediately where those hotspots are. Another example is where you may put it into a situation that you wouldn't necessarily want a human being to be put into. So in this case, it's moving into a little unit, and you'll see when they close the door of this unit, it has a whole bunch of warning signs on the front. Don't go in here. This is bad. Bad stuff can happen. No problem for the robot. In it goes. Now, in this case, the robot is being guided by a human being, by an expert who's doing some analysis and wants to understand what's going on there. And you'll see he's using a game controller because we have generations of people now who can pick up one of those and start using them straight away. So why create a new paradigm where you can use a very familiar input and output mechanism? And you can see here how close you can get and look at what's going on in the environment, pan around, etc. Also, it starts to map out the facility and continually map what's going on around there and can understand what's going on again from a thermal perspective. So this is a great example here. You can see the fin fan inspection. You can see that if you look on the normal picture, you can't actually see anything, but the thermal picture is a completely different view. You'll see there it continues to be able to explore its environment and make way. Now you may say, that's great, I can inspect my environment, I can see what's going on, but what about action in the environment? Well, this was another proof of concept they put together to share. And this is where a particular pump system has a vibration anomaly and they've detected it using IoT, and the operator knows, hey, I want to shut this down. The alarm goes off. They move the mouse, they go, shut the pump. We have a remote shutdown. That's all well and good. Well, what happens if the pump doesn't shut down? Things break. So they have a little robot they call Ripley, and they can say, Ripley, go fix the problem. So there's Ripley. And this is the test environment, so you'll see it so we can photograph it for you. But you'll see here, Ripley trundles along, knowing exactly which pump is causing the problem, identifies it, and approaches it. And you'll see there's a little code card there that identifies the equipment. So again, when we turn a pipe or a pump, we want to know we're doing the right one. So again, mapping all that is very, very important. And you can see Ripley reaches out and does what we all want it to do, which is to press the big red button. Now, the big red button couldn't be pressed remotely. We didn't want to have to send a human being into a potentially dangerous situation. So the robot goes and presses the big red button. Now, that started the fix, I should say. However, you can see there's some liquid leaking around there through one of the pipes. The pipe layout is not what it should be. So Ripley can also start to do a corrective action. And as Ripley is doing things, you'll see the picture at the top changes and also the action log changes as well. So Ripley is turning off that particular pipe, which you'll see is BV1 at the top left there, went red, and you'll see the valve, I should say, has been closed. Then there's another valve that has to be closed as well. This is BV2. But not done yet. There's a final step that Ripley needs to undertake because closing valves is not good enough. You need to be able to open them as well. So Ripley's now going to open valve BV3. So you can see that the way a robot can be applied to action a request, the net itself is being driven by sensor data and Internet of Things, dramatically changes the safety profile, the speed, the scale, the timeframes you can do things in. What about some of the more deep work that they've done in that environment? So this is a point cloud. So this is LiDAR mapped environmentals of the entire facility. So you can see it looks pretty interesting because you can see not just the equipment that's in place, but real-time sensor data from that equipment. So again, we're providing it in a very human readable form. You'll see there you can have the point cloud or the 3D view, which is often easier just from a, I want to see the schematics type view. But there's a lot of information you're going to see here that's shown across a time period. So you'll see there are pictures of the components at different times. You see as you look around, you can have this as a headset. As a VR headset, you can see oil levels, you can see temperatures, you can dive into it and get more information and see comparative information. Now, what was happening a while ago, you'll see there's audio recording because experts know what a good machine sounds like or what a bad machine sounds like. You can see comparative pictures. Did someone change something? Is there a leak there that wasn't there before, etc. You'll see they can continue to do their inspection and move through the facility. Again, stopping at something that's interesting. Understanding where we can see when a valve was turned on or off, what its position was. Exactly when did that valve change position? Back to the point cloud. So this is the real position of everything. It's been mapped out completely using all those little points, but you can kind of float your way through the environment. That's a person we're going past on the left there. Again, bring in those live pop-ups so that we can see what's going on with a particular piece of equipment. This is where we can go into far more detail about the particular piece of equipment. We can understand the process it contributes to, the operational requirements around it, any engineering requirements that might be around it as well. We can start to really inject a huge amount of information at the fingertips of the operator to understand how everything fits together and how it works. Is it working the way it should be? Is there something that needs to be changed? Is there an action that needs to be automated, etc.? Really, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can build based upon your particular use case. Now, there's also the opportunity to create automation. So in this case, they're doing their inspections. And instead of having a highly trained individual go and just do a boring and repetitive job of inspecting everything, they can have the automation go and do that, or have a person do it sitting in the comfort of their office. And again, we can see, are there things I need to do? Are there things I need to look at? Any modifications I need to make? How does everything fit together? How are my rounds going? Which section am I looking at? Is everything viable? Is everything working as it should? And again, these are safety critical systems. So observation is key. And optimization is key from an economic standpoint. There you can see a comparison of the picture. You'll see where things get built or where trucks are in place, etc. It's changed over time. It's important to know what's changed, because when things change, that's when things go wrong. Look, the truck was doing some work there at a particular point in time. Might be good to know that if something else unusual happens during that period of time. And that's a bit of sound of the actual device, so you can hear the sound. I'm sure that's very meaningful to someone who understands what that machine should sound like. And this is an example of the robot going off to do the rounds. And you can see it just explores its way around using radars and LiDARs and other sensor data to know where to go. And it's also using it to map the environment as it is. So we're not just relying on things that were mapped previously, but we're doing updates. Has something fallen down? Has something moved? Has something broken, etc. And once it's finished being used, it returns to home base to charge up to be ready to use next time. So I think some really thought-provoking concepts and ways so that we can apply these types of technologies to the built environment, the real world. But that's on the supply side. I want to talk really about the consumption side, the customer experience. And the customer experience is undergoing a really similar transformation. Basically, what's happening is better insights and better understanding of the customer is improving the customer experience. One of the key ways this is being done is through dramatically augmented call center capability. So all calls are transcribed after they're archived. Now, what this means is that as calls are being made, we're tracking and understanding what people are saying, both post the call, but also in real time. And this allows us to do a number of different things. Firstly, it allows us to analyze the corpus of vocal data to understand what are customers asking for? What problems are they having? Are they being frustrated by the answers they're getting? And then how can we actually identify where people should be routed for a particular call? Are there commonalities within the calls? That means we can action something on the back end. Maybe there's a commonality of a leak or a problem of some description. Or is there information we need to be providing on our outward bound communications, be it an advertising campaign or a frequently asked questions section of our website, where we can address frequent customer issues in a way that they don't have to call the call center. We can also provide real-time dashboarding for supervisors to understand, are things going well or not so well? And we can make sure the agents have the answers to the questions they need when they need it, rather than having to make the person be on hold for a long period of time. And as I mentioned, Intuit in the US has used exactly this technology to help them better service the customers as they ring into the agents. Basically, they're automating their entire call categorization. They're also making sure they're monitoring the customer experience, and they also have the requirement of meeting regulatory requirements of call monitoring or what's being said. By doing this at scale and at very low cost, it means that Intuit can improve their customer service dramatically, whilst not making their whole environment super, super complex. So what can you do today? Well, in partnership with Blackboard AI and IWN, we'd love to offer you the proof of value opportunity to trial for member Victorian water corporations. And this particular proof of value trial focuses on automating the manual review of sewer CCTV footage. So instead of having to look at it manually, we can do it in an automated fashion. And this can streamline where operators need to focus and make sure you can process more information more quickly and resolve it more speedily. Now, there's a few terms and conditions which I'll show you here, basically talking to you about the scope of what can be done as part of the proof of value. And it's analysing up to 10 gig or 2.5 kilometres of sewer CCTV footage. And you get a report so that you can understand how this compares as well. And IWN will sponsor up to 5 member water corporations with this trial offering, which is really, really exciting. So if you're interested in doing that, this is the gentleman you need to reach out to, Adam Fedden, who heads up our utilities here at AWS, and he'd be more than happy to connect you with that opportunity. But I hope this session has given you some thoughts and some insights, and I'll hand back to Tony. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Really appreciate your session there, and there's some fantastic insights there, and some of them potentially scary for some of us little water utilities. I encourage people to put in their questions in the Q&A, and in your Q&A there, I can ask some of them on your behalf. But while we wait for some questions to come in there, Simon, I certainly have one from my point of view. Some of that stuff was hugely exciting. And the first thing in this concept of challenges or opportunities, the first challenge that comes to mind is, holy crap, how do we pay for that? And then with the mind of the opportunity, how can we leverage your smarts and learnings from private sector organisations that have similar processes to us, pumps and pipes, etc., like the example you used there today? How do we work with AWS to bring those learnings from oil and gas and bring them into our organisation to drive, amazing and different outcomes?
Yeah, look, I think it's a great question. Really, the answer is that we work with our partner organisations like Iota and others to bring the common learnings and lessons together. We work with these organisations also to help them create very low-cost infrastructure solutions. So these robots look fancy and expensive, but they're actually not. And the other nice thing is that the IT infrastructure behind it, because it's cloud-based, is pay-as-you-go, pay for what you use, and very efficiently priced. And this means a few things. It can mean that, firstly, it means that you can experiment on a very small scale in a very affordable way and only roll things out when you see value. If you're experimenting and you're not seeing value, you just turn it off and stop paying for it. So you can dip your toe in the water, if you'll allow me to use the pun, and get a sense for it beforehand, before rolling it out. Now, one of the nice things is I'm pretty proud because I think Australia leads the world in many ways in terms of industrial automation, mainly through the mining sector, but also other sectors. And so by connecting these kinds of communities of practice together, we allow them to learn from each other as well. And so we have some great partners, as mentioned, like Iota, like Big Mate, etc., Australian-based industrial automation partners that can work with organisations to help them leap forward at very low cost.
Yeah, thanks. With that in mind, you're talking there about data and analytics early on, and the ability to do that in the cloud. For a water utility, just a core water and wastewater utility, where do we as organisations leverage the data we have available to us to drive huge and big impactful community outcomes in a potentially non-regulated environment? Where can we really add value to our communities, leveraging the data we have from our core business?
I think part of it is understanding the behaviour of your customers today. How are we using water? When do we use water? How do we interact with the system? And then helping us understand how to better do it. And I think one of the most transformational things was when our water bill started coming with the indication of how much water we'd used on a family basis versus a goal. But you can think of that as being the very low baseline of what we should be doing. We should be able to personalise to each individual household how they're using the service and how they might choose to use it better, and what those opportunities look like based upon the data that we already have. We have a huge amount of data about what people do, how they do it, etc. It's about bringing it together in a sensible and accessible way that people can take advantage of it, and also self-service as well. So being able to see your own usage, not just every month, but in real time, means, hey, I better turn the sprinklers off, probably not such a great idea, or maybe I need to think about replacing my washing machine to get something more efficient.
Excellent. One last question. We're right on time here, but one last question from me here is can a water utility utilise its wastewater data to become a preventative health organisation?
Well, I would ask the question back. Can you do it? I'll tell you this. The technology is there. The processing capability is there. The domain expertise is there. It's about having the vision to bring it together. That's the challenge. There was a case study we released the other day around prevention of illness in marsupials in Australia. And the researcher there said, I think something very relevant here. She said, in the past, we used to make the data fit the machine or the computer. Now we make the computer fit the data, which means we can do whatever we want to do and we can get the answers we need to get. It's all available to you now. It's really about applying it in a sensible and cost-effective way and getting the answers you need.
Thanks, Simon. That is a pet project of mine. I've already set that challenge with your AWS team, so I look forward to working with you in the future.
I'll check in with them.
Thank you for partnering with Vic Water and your sponsorship of the program today. We really do appreciate it, and it's great to see some partners coming into our industry events that are probably considered not necessarily traditional for partners that we would normally look at. So AWS is certainly someone we look forward to working with in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, so moving right along, we have Dean from Iwm, Intelligent Water Networks. Welcome, Dean. Thank you for joining us today. Really keen to hear what you've got to say today. We want to just understand a bit more about what Iwm does. So over to you, Dean. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that introduction, Tony. Yeah, it's a bit of a hard one to go after AWS, but we're looking forward to working with that organisation in that technology offering to the Victorian water corporations. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Dean. I'm the Program Director at Iwm. I'm just going to provide a short presentation just in relation to what we're up to. So Iwm's been around now for a little bit over 10 years, and we're a member-based organisation consisting of 16 Victorian water corporations. We deliver innovative technology trials on behalf of our member water corporations while collaborating and sharing learnings. So we're off to a good start this financial year. You can see some plots in relation to where our technology trials are per water corporation. Some are specific and conducted within one water corporation, and others are state-based trials. So if you look at the legend on the right, you can see some of our state-based trials that affect multiple water corporations. Regardless if a water corporation gets involved or doesn't get involved in a technology trial, they'll still get the benefit of the learnings. So each technology trial finishes with a case study or formal report that's shared with all member water corporations so that everyone gains the benefit of those learnings. How we introduce technology trials to the member water corporations can be in this forum. So Simon mentioned before about the sewer CCTV, but we also share any technology trial offerings via our newsletter. Also our champion group, which is an individual from each water corporation that's a conduit between Iwm and also their water corporation, and our program managers and also our working groups. There's a whole range of ways to find out about what we're offering. Our program aligns with Water for Victoria, and in that document they call out that we'll actually promote innovation within the water sector. I'd like to acknowledge our partners, being Vic Water and DELP, and thank them for their contribution and support over a long-term relationship. A bit about our vision. We investigate new technologies and innovations to address common challenges such as population growth, ageing infrastructure, climate variability in a more efficient manner. And our goal is to share opportunities through collaboration and leadership. So a little bit about our leadership program. I'm not too sure how many are familiar with that, but each member water corporation has a rep. We call that rep a champion, and they go through our 2-year leadership program called Leadership at the Edge. It's not just formal training. They do a little bit of formal training, but in addition to that, there's workshops, mentoring, and they also set action plans in relation to what they would like to deliver. We've had some success with this leadership program as well, and we've watched people develop into leadership positions, management roles, and also executive management positions, which is fantastic. So our leadership program is one of 9 that we manage as part of Iwm, and you can see there we've got a range of different programs from asset management and optimization to data analytics, biosolids and resource recovery, collaboration and knowledge sharing, edge technologies, energy and carbon, pipeline intelligence, digital metering solutions, and the leadership program that I just mentioned before. So today we've got a great opportunity where Brock will follow my presentation. Brock's our program manager for Edge Technologies, and he can share a little bit more detail about our remote field worker trial. And later in the day, we've got Aravind, who is our biosolids and resource recovery program manager, that'll share a little bit more specific information about our biosolids to biochar trial. So a little bit about our structure. So we have a Iwm Executive Group, which is pretty much like our board. That consists of managing directors and senior executives from our member water corporations. And that group's led by Paul O'Donoghue, MD at Central Highlands Water, who's our IWN chair. On the right, I've covered the program, so you can see there that we've got the program manager appointed to each program. And on the left, when you're looking at the region groups, that's the champion groups bundled up into regions. So we don't have him working alone. So the champions will go into a region so that they can collaborate within that group and also share learnings and any challenges that they might be experiencing as well. So what are we up to at the moment at IWN? We're doing some strategic planning. We've just completed our internal survey just to ask anyone who's involved in the IWN family about what's working well and what's not. We've also gone out to the industry. So being a member-based organisation, is that to serve your members, you need to ask them how you're going, what's working well and what's not. That survey closed last week and we're currently collecting the information. I guess the good news around the responses is that the last survey that was conducted in 2017, we've doubled the responses since then. So that's great that we've got some good engagement and some good feedback coming our way. That feedback will feed directly into our strategic planning session with our IWN executive next month. Once that's complete, we'd like to catch up with the member water corporation managing directors and provide some feedback about what we've collected with the industry, share some plans, what we're thinking about moving forward, and also collect some feedback from them. This is a little project that we're working on, just our photo board. I guess like they say, there's no I in team. So there's a lot of industry involvement and a lot of depth with this program. So you can see from that, just from the titles, you know, people are offering time and support to make an industry change, and that goes to the executive group. We've got our IWN office there, program managers, deputy program managers, champion groups, 2 IC champions, and also a range of different working groups. And you can see the shy ones there. There's a couple of names with no photos, so we'll track those photos down. So if you'd like to keep in touch with us, please visit the website. We've also got a special offer for anyone who's attended the Vic Water Conference over the next couple of days. Our newsletter will be for free. All you need to do is log into our website, put your email address in, and we'll send you a newsletter every month, and that'll provide you with some updates and what's going on. The free bit's a bit of a dad's joke, because if you don't do it over the next couple of days and sign up next week, it'll still be for free. So keep in touch, and if you want to drop us a line at IWN, you can use that inquiries at IWN email. Last of all, I'll just share a short video, which is our corporate video, which I hope you enjoy, and I appreciate your time today.
The Intelligent Water Network is Victoria's industry-led collaboration of water corporations from across the state, with 16 water corporations joining forces with government to lead practical action in providing solutions to some of the most pressing industry issues.
The Intelligent Water Networks program's perfectly positioned to drive new innovative technology within the Victorian water industry.
As we move forward, we will continue to focus on projects that deliver better customer outcomes and informed decision making. Key projects will include digitisation, minimising customer interruptions, renewable energy and carbon emissions, and building industry capability.
IWN is creating business-leading sustainable opportunities for the future of the water industry and all Victorians.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Dean. Great to hear about IWN and the work you're doing there. It's really obvious you've got a great spread across the industry here in Victoria. It was great to see the different projects across all the different regions there, which should help us all share the learnings. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
No worries. Before we go into anything further, it's probably worth just jumping straight into Brock's presentation following on from Dean there. Just a reminder, if you've got any questions, put them in the Q&A section there at the bottom. Happy to ask them on your behalf, and if we don't get some, we'll make sure we'll get you an answer outside the session. But thank you, Brock, for joining us today, and really keen to hear what you've got to say there about the remote fieldworker technologies that you're investigating there at the IWN. Over to you. Thanks.
Thanks for having me. As I said, my name is Brock Tunnicliffe. I work at City West Water. I've been in the industry for over 10 years now. Worked predominantly through a bunch of engineering departments like standards and design, network operations, capital works, working at a treatment plants. But these days I work as a strategic projects officer in City West Water Strategy and Planning Business Group. And it's there where I get to look at new and emerging technologies and see how they can be applied to solve business problems. So it's a lot of fun. That being said, I'll go to the next slide. I'm not sharing screen, am I? Excellent. Okay, so you said I'll go to slides 2. Yeah, so the Edge Technologies program, which I'm program lead of, also looks at new and emerging technologies and how they can be used to solve water industry problems. Things we're looking at are pretty much anything in the Industry 4.0 space, drones, ROVs, particularly around condition monitoring, virtual and augmented reality, training and remote assistance, 3D printing, and many, many more. I sort of started back in 2016 looking into virtual reality technology, and that more recently has evolved into augmented reality, which I'll get to. So what is augmented reality? Augmented reality is the practice of overlaying digital information on the user's vision. There's a few different headsets that can enable this. This here is the Magic Leap. We have the Daiquiri Smart Helmet, the next one, the RealWear HMT1, which I'll be talking about, the Microsoft HoloLens, augmented reality through a tablet or a smartphone using the pass-through camera, and hopefully one day contact lenses that will enable all of this. Some of the applications of augmented reality that we've been looking at, starting with a remote assist, but we're also looking at digital workflows, being able to say geo-reference work instructions out on site. So when a user attends that site, the GPS picks up that they're there and it will give them relevant information to perform their work. Augmented reality can also be used for visualization and a number of other Industry 4.0 applications, incorporating like digital twinning and such. If you can see the little photo down the bottom there, it's that's using a Microsoft HoloLens to look at GIS information. That was something that Wynnum City Council have been doing for the last few years. So what we've been working on is using the RealWear HMT1 headset for remote assistance. We discovered that there was a need for improvement of SMEs' ability to provide support to on-site staff. Before COVID, support was given through site visits, which can cause some delays due to travel, time, and availability. The site visit wasn't feasible. Subject matter experts will provide support through a phone conversation, which can have its limitations, generally just voice. It's a particular pain point for maintenance service and control systems, as the team leader there manages staff and subcontractors at pump stations and treatment plants, which can at times require specialist support. And in existing methods of remote support, we're not really meeting the requirements of staff, especially with the development of COVID from pretty much March. So due to COVID happening and everyone working from home and a lot of staff's movements being restricted, we had to sort of come up with new ways of performing work. And fortunately, I've been working on this remote assistance proof of concept for some time. So pretty much within a month of being asked if I could assist to help with a stormwater commissioning work, we were able to quickly revise the business case, get some headsets in and on the staff, and use it in a commissioning. To get access to the software that we used, which was MS Teams, we had to apply to an early release program through RealWear and Microsoft, and that was submitted by our account executive, Jen Rivera, and we were successfully allowed into the program and use MS Teams. So using MS Teams, we were allowing remote assistance capabilities. The operator on site, we were able to see pretty much what he sees, and provide real-time feedback as if we were on site, and we were also able to share our screens into the user's vision. So I think this might be, yep, that's the last slide there. So I've got a video about the stormwater commissioning work that we did, but we have used it also for some aquifer storage and recovery data logging. We have a scheme out in West Werribee where we have a staff member who's been looking after it for about 4 or 5 years, and he had a child at the end of last year, and he went to Colombia with his wife and has been with the family, and then obviously COVID happened. He hasn't been able to get back, and he's still stuck in Colombia. He was the only person that knew how the data loggers worked, and where they were, and how they operated. So what we had to do is put a headset on me. I went out on site, and I was able to get support from Javier directly from Colombia, and it was like having him over my shoulder. I was able to point at components, and he could guide me through how to do it all. That being said, I'll shoot through to a video, which is some of the people that were involved talking about some of the benefits that were found during this trial.
Hi, and thanks for the opportunity for us to share our innovation moment with you. What you're going to see is a demonstration of augmented reality technology being utilised at a recent stormwater harvesting site commissioning. You'll see it demonstrated live in the field and also get an idea of how we see it being used into the future.
Here's a quick recap on what the difference between VR and AR is. Virtual reality is the practice of putting yourself fully into an immersive digital environment, whereas augmented reality is the practice of overlaying digital content into the user's vision. Looking at several augmented reality solutions, we had decided on either using the Microsoft HoloLens 2 or the RealWear HMT1. Both have their use cases and their pros and cons. In this case, we've selected the RealWear HMT1 because it is a rugged, field-ready device with a long battery life, suitable for operations out in the field. You can see I'm wearing one now. Due to the impacts caused by COVID-19, Microsoft have been working with RealWear to integrate Microsoft Teams into the RealWear HMT1 headset. This option was only available for those with high-value COVID-19 use cases. Through our account executive, Jen Ribeiro, we were able to get accepted into this program to trial MS Teams on the RealWear HMT1 headset that I'm wearing now.
Hey everyone, just a bit of an after-action report on using the AR headset for the stormwater commissioning. While that technology is great, it made it so easy to talk to everyone online. Basically looks like a Microsoft Teams call from what I'm looking at, and frees up my hands to do what I need to do on site. If I didn't have the headset, I think I'd be having to hold 2 phones for different conversations and have a laptop on the side looking at my SCADA screen. But all that came up on the headset, and that was great. The headset itself, it's really light. It only weighs probably the same amount as a hard hat would. It was very easy to use, and as I said, it frees up my hands. And so I could see everything that I would usually be able to see in the office, and made it a lot easier and quicker for everyone else to do their part. If you're an electrician...
This is Tom, sorry to interrupt. You can share your screen if you want, and then Aaron can see your screen if it's different.
Oh yeah, okay. Didn't know that Aaron can see my screen.
You may need to just zoom in a little bit.
I can see all the figures. So you've got 2 valves.
So you see that 2 valves?
Yeah. Alright, so there should be 2 potable valves, but there should also be a non-potable valve. And I'm thinking it's on the far right-hand side of your screen.
Usually there will be minimum 4 subject matter experts to attend site for the commissioning like this. 1 for operation, 1 for maintenance, 1 from safety team, and a project manager. The AR technology has helped to close the gap between on-site commissioning officer and engineering support from the office. The live stream videos have helped to provide a clear vision of all assets installed on-site, which helped me to identify any potential defect from a safety, operation, and maintenance point of view. It definitely has helped us to complete all testing scenario quicker and with great confidence.
Can you go back to the the cabinet before and look down at the contour. Yeah. Look down in the orange contour. Are those sealed with the expandable foam? Those need to be sealed. If it's not,
Are they sealed?
Yeah. I don't think so.
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah. So put on the note there. They need to seal it.
It was used successfully. Everyone involved was ecstatic with the results. We had one person from City Westwater attend that site, and we had about 5 or 6 project managers and engineers from around the business tune in several times throughout the commissioning to assist, and they were things like sharing SCADA screens in real time to assist. Providing support for what to look at, troubleshooting any issues with the sensors there. We were really easily able to do those commissioning works probably more efficiently than if we were all out on site. So it was a big win overall. So we're looking, our next steps now are looking at getting a multi-utility trial through IWN's Edge Technologies program, getting some more utilities to trial MS Teams for remote assistance. And we'll also be looking at some of the things I touched on earlier, which is around geo-referenced work instructions, some hopefully sensor information visualization up on the screen, and I'm also looking at other hardware like the HoloLens and some of the applications that we can use that for. That's about it for what I was.
I think we're at time anyway, Brock. So thank you very much. Any final questions from anyone? Drop them into the Q&A. I've got one question for you, Brock, to wrap it up. I'll just tell you, one question I've got for you is, in all of the IWN work, what's the biggest thing that's been worked on now that'll be the game changer in 10 years?
I think, speaking from the Edge Technologies program, I'd like to think that this augmented reality technology will provide some pretty disruptive ways of working. I'm very passionate about VR and AR and some of the possibilities in the future, being able to have all your work screens up floating in your vision, pretty much living a sci-fi reality. One of the big there's many moving parts to, I think, what the end sort of vision will look like, and it's the merging of IoT, like cloud and data lakes, being able to say have digital twins either in real time with like 3D scanning cameras like the Microsoft Kinects. I think they're still called the Kinects. They may be called something else now. And then how all that sort of pieces together. You've got all that information, the big data that we can use to then implement robotics, AR, VR. I think there's not one single thing, but it's all sort of going to one end goal, which is essentially that sort of Industry 4.0 vision, which is the tying in of all these technologies. So I don't think there's any one particular thing that we're working on. I think these things all need to happen to realize the future benefits from the technologies.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Brock. All right, time to wrap up this session. On the screen there, starting at 3:15, so we've got a bit of a half-hour break here. Just remember to go into your portal, look up the part 2 link from your portal and jump onto that. Some closing words for me. We've seen some amazing technologies in this session today. Some of them seem a bit far-fetched. Some of them aren't, but as leaders of this industry and decision makers of our organisations, it's important that we think about the art of the possible and work out a way to get there and drive that momentum from understanding what outcomes can be driven from these technologies. If we think about it from outcomes point of view, we'll really start picking the right technology at the right time for the right outcome. Thank you for your time today. Everyone can fly a plane. All you got to do is jump in it and have a go. You're not going to know unless you know. So good luck and enjoy your innovation technology journey. Cheers.
And I'll pop that video in the chat for anyone that wants to check it out on the break.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.